On this video, I'm going to show you how to read and write to a file using C++. I'm going to create a new project. It's going to be a Win32 console application. As always, create an empty project. Add a new item. Include your IO stream. Using namespace standard. Here we have our regular Hello World program. In order for us to start reading and writing to a TXT file, we need to include a preprocessor directive called Fstream. So include Fstream preprocessor directive. So this preprocessor directive called Fstream allows you to read and write to a file. If you only want to read, you can use the ifstream, and if you only want to write, you can use the opstream. Because I'm going to do both, I'm going to use the Fstream. And also, because I'm going to be using string, I'm going to also include this preprocessor directive called string, and that's going to allow us to use the string data type. So now let's start writing our program to write to a file. So offstream is what allows us to write to a file. Write to a file. I'm just gonna rename it write to a file, but you can name this whatever you wanna name. Now the write to a file .open, and here is where you give the name of the file you wanna open. You also give the complete path to the file. Now, because I just want to open a file inside my project, I'm just gonna put the name of the file I want to create. And this file is going to be called weapon.txt. And to start writing to the weapon.txt file, I just have to use the name that I gave in the beginning, which was write to a file. And then now if you notice that writing to the console you use cout, but when you're writing to a file you just use the offstream. Our offstream here is called write to a file, and everything else is the same. Now inside the file I also want a new line after every single line, so you need to put this new line right here. And this is going to be the second line, third, fourth, and the fifth line of my file. I run the program, and I just have a hello world because it wrote to a file. And now I need to close the file. Close. So I'm going to delete this line here so there's no confusion. What we have here is a offstream, and then we create a file and we start writing to the file. So I run, and if I open the file explorer over my project, I'm going to see a file here called weapon.txt, and if I open, this is what my program wrote, which is fine. So first line, second line, third line, fourth line, and so on. If I run this again, you may think that nothing happened, but in reality, this file overwrote what used to be here. So let's just change here. Instead of putting, let's put a whole bunch of X's right here and run it. Open the txt file again. So what happened is that the file overwrites whatever contents you have in the file. So you may want to do that, or you may not want to do that. So let's say you do not want to overwrite the contents of your file every time you run this program. If you don't, then right here on line 10, when you open the offstream, you can put an option, a flag, and the flag I want is the app. Stands for append. So every time I run this program, instead of overwriting what I have in the file, the offstream is just going to add one more line or add more contents. So I just add this line here, and let's run with AAA. If I open the file again, that's my AAA. If I run with BBB, I look at my file and there's a BBB. So put this flag to append to the file, and if you do not put this flag, every time you run, you overwrite the contents of the entire file. So everything you had in the file is now lost. But let's keep the option to append contents in this file. In summary, I open the offstream, I open the file, I write some to the file, and then I close the file. Now let's read from that file. To read, I'm going to use the if stream, and you can name this whatever you want to name. I'm naming read file, and read file.open. I'm going to open the file that I created previously, and then we can start reading from the file. And to read from the file, I'm going to use a loop. So while get line dot get line read file. We need a string line. So string one line, and then the get file sends to one line. I know you went a little bit too fast here, so let's review this this loop here. So first here I create a variable called one line, and then I create a loop, and this loop gets a line from the file we want to read from and stores this line on a variable called oneLine. So within the loop, I can see out oneLine, and that should read, get a line from the file. In other words, read from the file, print to the console. And once there's nothing else to read from this file, the loop stops, and then we need to close the if stream. And our if stream is called readLine. So readLine.close closes our file. So over here we write to a file, and then over here we read from a file. So let's run this program. So I have BBB twice. So let's take a look on our file. And yep, sure enough, we have BBB twice. So let's put something else here. Let's put WW. So the 2BB initial plus a WW. We can put XXX. So the BB, W, and the X. And that's it.